This is the Orioles Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Baltimore Orioles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good evening, Birdland. Luke Slaybaugh here, coming to you live on YouTube and on demand on the replay, wherever you get your podcast for free on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for joining me here as Memorial Day weekend kicks off and storms upon us in the worst possible way. Baltimore Orioles falling to the Red Sox 19-5 on this Friday afternoon. A nor'easter is cascading on Boston. There was rain in the forecast all weekend. It's going to be chilly. And so what was supposed to be game one of a doubleheader, this 19-5 bludgeoning at the hands of the Bo Sox, now is just a one-game silo. And there are two games tomorrow. So some housekeeping. There was a game rained out yesterday that was moved to today, which has been rained out and moved to tomorrow. So Saturday is going to be a split doubleheader at Fenway Park. 1:05 is the first pitch for game one, and the second game moves from its original start time of 4 to 6:30 p.m. Get it? Got it? Good.
This is what you'll be talking about.
I'm contractually obligated to give you this episode today and all over the weekend as well. They want someone who can do Fridays, Saturdays, and all that. And unless there's a big family issue or something like that, we're going at it. And so I'm going to be completely honest with you. During business hours, like there's a game going on at 11 or 1 or 3. Like I got a million different things going on. Today, for example, you might notice if you're watching live on the YouTube that I got some red in my face. I was shooting TikToks by the lake. I got lunch on the lake. It was wonderful. And then, like listening to Jeff Arnold on the broadcast, looking down, checking the graphic. And at one point it was 6-3. And I'm like, you know what? Okay. I'm able to watch the first few innings and I saw Cade Povich's full outing. I was like, you know what? Cool. And, if the bullpen implodes for a little bit and they give up 5 runs, it's nothing we haven't seen before. And then, you get pulled into meetings, you get into conference calls, you start talking to investors, and it's like, wait, Emmanuel, who is that? What? And that's kind of the gist of this story. The Red Sox just kept pouring on runs against the O's. And what's frustrating about all this, it's been the theme all year, is this team is whack-a-mole. One facet of the game works, and then the other implodes. When the O's were teeing off on home runs, they hit 6 on opening day and then, competed against Toronto, and then Colton Cowser gets hurt. And you're like, they can see some pitches. They can score runs in clusters. They can put up crooked numbers. Put up a crooked number today. So taking the lead against Boston. And you're thinking, you know what, cool. But it's the rotation that was dooming them. And then the rotation starts to see a breakout from Sagano, and you're seeing Kramer pitch a couple of good outings, and then the offense loses its identity. And then the manager gets fired. And then the bullpen starts leaking runs, oozing them, to be honest. And what's crazy is that this game felt like half a game, like 2 completely different games. The first 5 innings, Cade Povich is poised on the mound. He's looking like a professional, 25 years old, but commanding the game and rising to the occasion and pitching with composure and gumption and challenging hitters, challenging Rafael Devers, challenging Jarren Duran, getting them to strike out. Kay and Trevor Story on breaking balls, playing to their weaknesses. And I was like, okay, they're coming off a win against Milwaukee. There's the swagger, the good old Baltimore Orioles swagger from the last couple of years, right? And the bullpen can't keep it together. And to be honest, it was a slippery slope kind of thing. You know how Final Destination came out with a new movie right now? I can't stand those movies. They give me the creeps. And I know that's what they're for, Luke. Come on. Someone gets a premonition about impending disaster. It's going to get real dark because he lost by 14 runs. And then they escape a fatal situation, but then the omen, death, comes for them. I was trying to avoid using the word death in this podcast because we're talking about America's game here. You know the point. Tony Todd's in them, all that stuff. And it really is Final Destination this year. You think back to Jorge Mateo missing the fly ball to center field and that going for 3 bases and just how everything collapsed right afterwards. There's a chain reaction of things that happens right after it. Right after the moment where someone unplugs the microwave wrong, or someone pulls behind a truck that's carrying logs, or someone gets on a faulty plane. All these things. And listen, I'm not seeing that new Final Destination movie, but I sure as heck read the Wikipedia article on it, and I know what happens, and I cringe. I physically cringe because that sense of dread, they have you on your toes. It's just skin crawling. And the moment happens, 1 out, bottom of the 6th. Seranthony Dominguez taken over. It's been a rough go for the bullpen. Been a rough go for him. Cano, even Baker's given up some runs. Felix Bautista can't throw a strike anymore. What is going on? Mom, are you there? Nick Sogard with 1 out hits a liner to the right center field gap. And Heston Kjerstad, who made a really good defensive play earlier on in the game that we'll talk about in the second block. Kjerstad drifts over. This is a tough play for him regardless. Wasn't expecting him to make a full out catch on this or lay out for it. Those gaps, it's very vast out there in the Fenway outfield. But Heston gets there in time. And he's sliding. The ball hits the inside heel of his glove. Heston beats the ball there. But it falls for a double. And hijinks ensue. And Seranthony had so many times to get out of the inning and get outs, and so many missed opportunities that they just might take the Sir out of his name. He might lose his knighthood. 2-2 count on Christian Campbell, next batter. Can't beat him. Misses low for ball 4. Next batter has Ceddanne Rafaela. 0-2. Misses with 2 pitches against a free swinger in Ceddanne Rafaela. Gets him in on the hands with a 2-seam fastball. Pokes a soft base hit up the middle. Now, it looked like live that if Jorge Mateo were positioned like in normal shortstop range, he probably could have made that play. But he was shaded a little bit too far to the left towards third base. So Sogard scores. It's a 2-2 ball game, and still cool. Left-hander Gregory Soto comes in to stop the bleeding. Ain't gonna happen. Jarren Duran peppers the go-ahead base hit. It's 3-2. Next batter, 1-0 on Rafael Devers. Cement mixer slider. Home run to the deepest part of center field. And 6-2, Boston's up. It's pretty much all she wrote there. But interim manager Tony Mansolino has to preserve his pitcher's arm somehow, huh? Puts in left-hander Cionel Perez. And to this point, I think it's kind of been the running gag that Perez is the white flag, symbolically. He put together a pretty good outing of 2 2/3 the other day, and we want him to succeed. Pitches a clean 7th inning. Then the 8th eventually falls off, gives up a 3-run homer to Rob Refsnyder, who just kills lefties. It's 11-3. And again, you had a full day off yesterday. People should be starting to get their energy and health back in that bullpen. So now that the O's are down 8 runs and they've got a hypothetical game 2 coming up, interim manager Tony Mansolino sees fit to hand things off to a position player because they are eligible to do just that. Emmanuel Rivera, his number is called. Now, if you were picking a pitcher on this team out of the position players, you would think, hey, I'm going for the guy with the most pop and the most potential on this team. I want my star to lock him down. You know, the Cubs used to have Anthony Rizzo throw, and we saw Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols do it in the NL Central back when it was cool. Back when the games were blowouts. Manuel Rivera gets the nod, but man, Gary Sanchez is there. Jorge Mateo, you remember that game, that Cincinnati game. And this just might be the second most lopsided, second worst loss of the year. Emmanuel Rivera channels his inner Kyle Gibson. hangs 55 out there. Doesn't have a whole lot of command. Starts walking people. Gives up a grand slam to Rafael Devers, capping an 8-run frame for Manny and an 8 RBI day for Devers. And they would trail 19-3 going into the ninth. We talked about all the bad. We have to have a laugh at this sometimes, right? Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. We're going to wrap things up in the next block. We're going to talk about the things that we did like because the first 5 innings looked like a cool, composed O's team. And we'll talk about where things started to go wrong. And that's all coming up right after this. The Waka Conference Finals for FanDuel. NBA loves its partnership with FanDuel, so do we. It's time to get in on the action. Player props, performance trends, same game parlays. Fans can get in on the action like never before. The reigning MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, up 2-0 in the series against the Timberwolves. OKC's been rebuilding for 10 years. Sam Presti's been collecting draft picks like Mike Elias on the waiver wire, finding his next Dylan Carlson. And also, those Eastern Conference Finals. Tyrese Halliburton doing the Reggie Miller celebration prematurely. How do we feel about that? How do we feel about Tyrese Halliburton, Jarris Walker, Obi Toppin, Rick Carlisle squad? They got the championship pedigree, don't they? You can combine all those props. I'd love to see what you got. Comment your best props from FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. For those of you who are not in the know, on weekends, I also do some United Football League stuff, so I got to get out of here next 4 minutes. Let's talk about the things we liked about this game. Heston Kjerstad made a great running catch into the wall, bottom of the second. And that was already, a tense game so far. Nothing, bottom 2. Those first few innings, you got to make a statement. Carlos Narvaez at the plate hits the ball to right field. I found it interesting that O'Hearn was given the start in left and Kjerstad in right. But again, you're expecting a doubleheader. Got to move these guys around. It's the reason why Jorge Mateo was short today. Gunnar was DH. But you kind of worry if Kjerstad didn't have much of a sense of the wall, didn't have his bearings around him. And in fact, if you go back and look at the replay, he's got his left arm out as he's drifting backwards. Great drop step. And then his right arm is out, almost like he's about to stiff arm somebody, like he's kind of feeling. And that is his protection, that breaks his contact with the wall before he goes over and robs Narvaez of a home run. And great composure by Povich. 2 outs. Jorge Mateo makes an error. But then next batter, Cedar Rafaela, Povich gets out of the inning. And then we had some good, a crooked number, bottom of the third from the O's. Heston Kjerstad blatantly rolls over on a pitch to right field, but it finds grass for a single. Jorge Mateo singles up the middle, which is great to see. Part of a 2-hit day for Georgie. Then Jackson Holliday also finding grass in right field. Heston scores. It was a 1-0 ball game. Adley Rutschman pouncing on the early count pitches as well as Holliday. Adley just has to make contact with the ball, gets it deep to the shortstop. Mateo, with his speed, is allowed to score. It's 2-0. Now, unfortunately, they're going up against Brian Bayo, right-hander, and they had his pitch count up. He was averaging about 20 an inning. They had him on the ropes. Povich, for his part, was also throwing 15, 17, 20 an inning. And they were just getting up around the 56, 57 mark here, bottom 3. You have a chance to step on the throat, put this thing in high gear. Jackson Holliday breaks early for third with Ryan Mountcastle up at the plate. 2 strikes. And Bayo here's step off. Fires it on to third. Alex Bregman able to apply the tag and get Holliday. That's with 1 out in the inning. Now there's 2. Next pitch, Ryan Mountcastle strikes out. Excuse me, I meant to say top of the third on that. I'm just looking at my notes now. My mistake. Bottom of the third, though, we saw Povich do a really good glove flip play to Ryan Mountcastle, getting the speedy Jarren Duran out. Respectable outing from Cade Povich. Struck out 3 in the first inning, challenging Duran with a sinker, Devers with the fastball in on the hands, Story with the curveball. It's a competitive outing. And even with 2 outs in the 5th, this could have been the tipping point for Povich. But with 2 outs, he gives up a single to Alex Bregman, which Alex could have extended to 2 bases, but he pulls up around first with right quad tightness, actually leaves the game. Povich walks Rob Refsnyder, which, given his success against Southpaws, not the worst case scenario. Drew French comes out to calm things down. Thank goodness. Really good move just to break up some of the momentum in the game. And then, after that powwow, Povich gets Trevor Story to roll over. Lots of breaking balls. And Cade leaves with the 2-1 lead. He did his job. Respectable outing. You will take that every time. And that's the final line on Cade. 5 innings, 1 earned run, 4 hits, 3 walks, and 6 strikeouts. ERA down to 4.86. Trevor Rogers was the 27th man for today's doubleheader. The prized trade acquisition for and we know our thoughts on that. Not pitching particularly well. ERA in the 7s down in AAA Norfolk. But sometimes that's just tuning up, getting your mechanics in play. It could be anything. Heck, Kyle Gibson was throwing strikes down in AAA. Sometimes past performance is not an indicator to future performance. Sometimes it's between the ears, and sometimes it's just where your feet are. So tomorrow, could it be Rogers and then Charlie Morton in the nightcap and then Zach Eflin on Sunday? No word so far. As it continues to rain in Boston, rain is a good thing. Luke Bryan, by the way, is a fake Luke. His first name in reality is Luther. And we don't stand for that. We don't stand for that here. Final score, a lot to a little. Baltimore 5, Boston 19. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to this truncated version of the Orioles postcast. My name is Luke Slabaugh. I'm with you after every Orioles game, soon as I can get in front of the studio camera. I want to thank you all for tuning in here live on YouTube. Listening on the replay, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up, rating, review, things you would like to change about this show. I'm sure there's a lot. Have a great Memorial Day weekend if you're not listening for the rest of the weekend. We got one show tomorrow, and it'll be after Game 2. We get paid less when there's a doubleheader. So we got that going for us. And then Cardinals are in town Monday. And then Sunday as well, they're up in Boston. So looking forward to hearing and seeing y'all. And yeah, let me know how it goes. But thank you again for watching and listening here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Good night. Stay safe. See you right back here tomorrow.